In the 20th century, many actors and actresses who were not heterosexual had to hide their true selves. If they were outed, they faced harsh consequences that threatened their careers and reputations. To protect their public image and personal lives, many turned to what we now call lavender marriages, which you can say is a fake marriage. In this video, we'll take a closer look at some of Hollywood's most famous lavender marriages, Cary Grant and Dyan Cannon. Cary Grant was a famous actor who often appeared in movies, and his life was full of excitement on the big screen. However, behind the scenes, Cary had secrets about who he really loved. There were whispers and rumors that Cary was not interested in the opposite gender in the way that people expected. To protect his career and hide his true feelings, Cary married a woman named Dyan Cannon. Their marriage is called a lavender marriage because it was arranged to cover up his real attractions rather than because of deep, true love. In a lavender marriage, the union is more about keeping a secret safe than sharing a genuine, loving relationship. Cary and Dyan got married, and they even had a daughter together. For a long time, their marriage helped Cary keep his private life hidden from the public eye. Unfortunately, the secret eventually came out when details were revealed in a famous memoir by Scotty Bowers. The memoir told stories about Hollywood actors who loved differently from what people expected. After the revelations, Cary and Dyan's marriage ended in divorce in 1968. The story of Cary Grant and Dyan Cannon shows us how difficult it was for famous people to be honest about who they really were. It reminds us that everyone should be free to love who they are without fear of losing their jobs or their place in the spotlight. Liza Minnelli and Peter Allen. Liza Minnelli, whose mother was the famous Judy Garland, was an actress who grew up in a very famous family. Peter Allen, a popular performer, married Liza on March 3, 1967. This marriage was not based on deep romantic love, but was more a plan to hide Peter's true feelings. At the time, Peter was not ready to show that he might be attracted to the same gender, and society did not accept that. So, Peter chose to marry Liza, and their union became a lavender marriage, a marriage used to cover up a secret about who someone really is. During their years together, many people thought that Peter was behaving normally, but behind closed doors, he was hiding his true self. Liza and Peter tried to make their marriage work, but it was always a challenge because the main reason for their union was to protect Peter's public image. After several years, on July 24, 1974, they divorced. Later on, Peter shared that he was actually gay, which explained why the marriage was never filled with true love. The story of Liza Minnelli and Peter Allen teaches us that sometimes marriages are not about love, but about protecting one's career and reputation. Their marriage was a careful plan to avoid public judgment and keep personal secrets hidden. It reminds us that everyone should be allowed to be themselves without having to hide important parts of who they are. Rudolph Valentino and Jean Acker. Rudolph Valentino was a very famous movie actor long ago. People believed that he might like people of the same gender, but at that time, society did not accept that. To hide his secret feelings, he married a woman named Jean Acker. They got married on November 6, 1919, so everyone would think he was straight. This kind of marriage, where someone marries just to hide their real feelings, is called a lavender marriage. On the wedding night, something strange happened. Jean Acker locked Rudolph out of their hotel room. It seemed like she did not really want to be close to him because both of them were keeping a big secret. Their marriage was not about love. Instead, it was about keeping up appearances so that people would not wonder about Rudolph's true self. Many actors back then felt they had to hide who they really were, and marrying someone from the opposite gender was one way to do that. Even though they tried to make the marriage work, it did not last. They got divorced on March 4, 1923. In the end, Rudolph and Jean's marriage was not a happy love story. It was a careful plan to cover up the truth about Rudolph's sexuality. This story shows how difficult it was for famous people to be honest about who they really were, and why many chose a lavender marriage to protect their careers and personal lives. Judy Garland and Harmon. Judy Garland was a famous actress who many people loved to watch in movies. Mark Harmon, her husband, was also an actor. But there was something special about his marriage. At a time when it was not okay to talk about liking the same gender, Mark was hiding his true feelings. In order to keep his secret, he married Judy Garland on November 14, 1965, in Las Vegas, Nevada. This marriage was not done because they were in deep love. It was more of a clever plan to cover up his real self. People later found out that Mark actually had a very important secret. He was in love with another man named Henry Brandon. Marrying Judy Garland helped him hide this secret and allowed him to keep his acting career safe. The marriage did not last long, and after only 5 months, they began to live apart. They finally divorced 17 months later. Even though the marriage lasted for a short time, it is an example of what is called a lavender marriage. A lavender marriage happens when someone marries to hide their true sexual feelings. In this case, Mark and Judy's marriage was a way to keep up a normal public image, while Mark's heart belonged somewhere else. This story reminds us that sometimes famous people make choices that are not about love, but about protecting their private lives from a world that was not ready to accept them. Janet Gaynor and Adrien Greenberg. Janet Gaynor was a popular actress known for her work on the big screen, but she had a secret about her own heart. Before meeting Adrien Greenberg, Janet had already been married a few times, and people often talked about her love life. To keep her personal feelings hidden and protect her career, Janet decided to marry Adrien Greenberg. Their marriage was a careful plan to cover up her true self, which is why it is called a lavender marriage. In a lavender marriage, people get married not because they are deeply in love, but to hide parts of who they really are from a society that might not accept them. Janet and Adrien lived together for 20 years, and during that time they appeared to be a normal couple. Their union helped Janet avoid more scandal and gossip about her personal life, allowing her to focus on her acting. Unfortunately, after many years, their marriage came to an end when Adrien passed away in 1959. Janet's decision to marry Adrien was not based on a deep romantic connection, but on a need to keep her personal life private and protect her reputation in an era when being different was not accepted. The story of Janet Gaynor and Adrien Greenberg shows us that sometimes people make difficult choices to live their lives safely, even if it means hiding who they truly are. It is a reminder that everyone deserves the freedom to be themselves without fear. Barbara Stanwyck and Robert Taylor. Barbara Stanwyck and Robert Taylor were both very famous movie stars who worked for big movie companies like MGM. Back in the day, if people found out that an actor did not follow the usual ideas about love, it could hurt their career. When the studio discovered that Barbara and Robert were not interested in dating the opposite gender the way people expected, they came up with a plan. The studio arranged for Barbara and Robert to get married on May 13, 1939, so that everyone would believe they were a normal, happy couple. This marriage was called a lavender marriage because it was made to hide the real feelings and attractions of both actors. In a surprising moment on their wedding day, Robert even refused to kiss Barbara. Instead of celebrating their union with a kiss, he went home to his mother's house. This strange act showed that their marriage was more about keeping up appearances than about true love. The marriage lasted for about 12 years before they finally got divorced in February 1951. Although the marriage helped protect their careers, it was not filled with real passion or happiness. Instead, it was a careful plan to hide the truth about who they really were. The story of Barbara Stanwyck and Robert Taylor helps us understand how difficult it was for famous people to be honest about their true selves. They had to choose a path that kept them safe in a world that was not ready to accept them. Rock Hudson and Phyllis Gates. Rock Hudson was one of Hollywood's biggest movie stars, and many people admired him for his charm and talent. However, rumors began to spread that Rock might be attracted to the same gender. At that time, if people knew the truth about a star's feelings, it could cause a lot of problems for their career. To protect his image, Rock Hudson's agent arranged a quick marriage between Rock and his secretary, Phyllis Gates, in 1955. This marriage is known as a lavender marriage because it was not about deep love, but about hiding the truth. The main goal was to keep the secret safe so that people would not think badly of Rock. Even though Rock and Phyllis were married, many still believed that Rock was not truly happy in the marriage. The couple eventually got divorced in 1958, and despite the marriage, the rumors continued. Rock's story shows us that sometimes famous people have to make decisions that protect their careers rather than follow their hearts. The marriage to Phyllis was a way for Rock Hudson to keep his true self hidden. It reminds us that everyone should be free to love who they are without having to hide, and that it is important for society to accept all kinds of love. Rock Hudson's experience teaches us about the challenges of living a public life while keeping personal secrets. Rudolph Valentino and Natasha Rambova. After his first marriage did not work out, Rudolph Valentino, one of Hollywood's most famous actors, married a woman named Natasha Rambova in 1923. Many people believe this marriage was a lavender marriage, meaning that it was done not for love, but to hide the truth about who he really was. In those days, if an actor was suspected of liking people of the same gender, it could hurt his career and his public image. By marrying Natasha, Rudolph tried to show the world that he was a normal man. However, this marriage was not built on strong feelings. It was more like a plan to cover up his secret so that everyone would think he was heterosexual. Even though they tried to make the marriage work, it only lasted for 2 years before ending in divorce. Natasha Rambova was a costume designer who also had her own personal struggles with love and attraction. Their marriage was not happy because it was never meant to be about true love, but rather a disguise for the real feelings that both might have had. This is why many people call it a lavender marriage, a marriage done to hide something important about one's true self. The story of Rudolph and Natasha shows us how difficult it was for famous people to be themselves during times when society was very strict about who they should love. It also reminds us that being true to oneself is important, even if others do not understand. Alfred Lunt and Lynn Fontanne. Alfred Lunt and Lynn Fontanne were both very talented actors who loved to work together on stage. They became one of the most famous acting teams, and many people admired their performances. However, there were also rumors about their personal lives. Some people believed that their marriage was a lavender marriage. This means that while they appeared to be a happy couple on stage and in public, the true nature of their relationship was kept hidden. In those days, if people suspected that someone did not follow the usual rules of love, it could cause trouble for their career. Alfred and Lynn married because it was a safe way to hide any secrets about who they really loved. Even though they did not openly talk about it, both Alfred and Lynn may have felt attractions that they could not share with the public. Their marriage was strong on stage and in work, but behind the scenes, it was a way to protect themselves. They stayed together until they passed away. And even though no one ever confirmed the details, the mystery of their private life stayed with them. The story of Alfred Lunt and Lynn Fontanne teaches us that sometimes people work very hard to keep their private feelings a secret. They made a brave choice to protect their careers and live their lives as they wished, even if society was not ready to accept them. Neil Asther and Vivian Duncan. Neil Asther was a well-known actor who appeared in movies, and he married a co-star named Vivian Duncan in August 1930. At that time, people had strong ideas about who should love whom, and if someone did not follow those ideas, it could hurt their career. Neil Asther was suspected of not being fully straight, so he married Vivian to protect his public image. This type of marriage is known as a lavender marriage because it was not done for deep romantic love, but rather to hide one's true self. Neil and Vivian had a child together named Evelyn Asther Duncan. Their marriage was meant to show the world that Neil was a typical family man. However, deep down, the marriage was only a plan to keep his true feelings a secret. After only 2 years, the couple decided to divorce. Even though their time together was short, it was important in the sense that it helped Neil continue his career without too many questions about his personal life. The story of Neil and Vivian teaches us that sometimes people get married for reasons other than love. In a time when society did not accept different ways of loving, famous people like Neil had to make difficult choices. Their marriage was like a mask that hid the truth, showing us how important it is for everyone to be accepted for who they truly are. Tallulah Bankhead and John Emery. Tallulah Bankhead was a talented actress who loved being on stage and in movies. When she was young, she had experiences that made her realize she loved girls too. However, during her time, society did not accept that kind of love. To keep her true feelings hidden, Tallulah married an actor named John Emery in 1937. Their marriage was a way to show everyone that she was a normal woman, even though deep down she had different feelings. This kind of marriage, where the real truth is kept secret, is called a lavender marriage. Tallulah and John tried to make the marriage work for 4 years. They did not have children, but the marriage helped Tallulah continue her acting career without too much public worry. In a time when being different could hurt someone's reputation, this marriage was a safe plan. It was not about the love that people see in movies, but about hiding one's true self to avoid problems. Tallulah's decision to marry John was like wearing a mask to keep her private feelings hidden. Even though the marriage lasted only 4 years, it shows us how hard it was for famous people to live openly and honestly. Tallulah Bankhead's story reminds us that everyone should be allowed to love who they truly are, without fear or secrets. Oscar Wilde and Constance Mary Wilde. Oscar Wilde was a brilliant writer who loved to write plays and stories. He was known for his clever words and beautiful ideas. However, Oscar had a secret. He was attracted to men. At that time, society did not understand or accept this, so Oscar decided to marry a woman named Constance Mary Wilde. Their marriage was a way to hide his true self from the public. This type of marriage is known as a lavender marriage. Oscar and Constance Mary Wilde got married, and they even had 2 sons named Cyril and Vivian. Even though they appeared to be a happy couple, the marriage was really a careful plan to keep Oscar's personal life a secret. Later on, Oscar got into big trouble when he was arrested for indecency because of his hidden love for men. This scandal hurt his reputation and made the marriage even more complicated. Constance Mary tried to keep up a cheerful front, but deep down, both knew that the marriage was not about love. Instead, it was a way for Oscar to continue his work as a writer without too many questions about his private life. The story of Oscar Wilde and Constance Mary Wilde shows us how difficult it was for creative people in the past to be true to themselves. It also teaches us that everyone deserves to be honest about who they are, and that hiding one's true feelings can be very painful. Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy. Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy were a well-known couple in Hollywood who often appeared together in public. Their partnership lasted for 26 years, and people always thought they were the perfect match. However, their marriage was unusual. Even though they seemed like a typical couple, both Katharine and Spencer had different personal feelings. Katharine was known to have a close relationship with a woman, and Spencer was rumored to sometimes spend time with men. To keep these truths hidden from the public, they stayed together in a relationship that served as a cover. This kind of marriage, where the real feelings are hidden behind a normal appearance, is known as a lavender marriage. They worked hard to maintain their public image and to keep any questions about their private lives away from the media. Their relationship was built on trust and understanding that they both had secrets they could not openly share. They stood together in public, and their close bond helped them avoid scandals that could hurt their careers. Even though their marriage was not like a typical love story, it allowed them to continue working and living without too much trouble. Their partnership ended only when Spencer Tracy passed away in 1967. The story of Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy shows us how some famous couples made sacrifices in their personal lives to protect their public images, and it reminds us that everyone deserves to be true to themselves. Judy Garland and Vicente Minnelli. Judy Garland was a well-known actress with a big heart and a bright smile. Later in her life, she married Vicente Minnelli, a man who was very famous in his own way. Vicente was comfortable with who he was, and he knew that he liked men. Because society at that time did not accept people who loved the same gender, Vicente's marriage to Judy was a clever way to hide his true self. This is what we call a lavender marriage. In a lavender marriage, the couple gets married not for true love, but to keep a secret safe from the public. Judy and Vicente's marriage lasted for about 6 years, and they even had one child named Liza. Both Judy and Vicente knew that their marriage was a way to protect Vicente's secret. Judy supported Vicente because she understood the difficulties of living in a time when people were not kind to those who were different. However, as time went by, things changed. Judy started having mental health problems, and eventually their marriage ended in divorce. The union was never about deep passion. It was a plan to keep Vicente's personal life hidden so that he could work in the movies without being hurt by public opinion. Their story teaches us that sometimes people have to make hard choices to protect themselves, even if those choices are not based on love. It reminds us that every person should be accepted for who they truly are. Danny Kaye and Sylvia Fine. Danny Kaye was a well-known entertainer who loved to perform on stage. Even though he was popular, Danny felt different inside because he was not as masculine as many people expected. In his younger days, during his time in vaudeville, Danny had relationships with other men. However, because society did not accept this, Danny chose to marry a kind woman named Sylvia Fine in the 1940s. Their marriage was a Lavender marriage, which means it was mostly done to hide Danny's true feelings and to protect his public image. By marrying Sylvia, Danny hoped that everyone would believe he was just a normal man who loved women. Together, they had a daughter named Dina, and the family appeared to be ordinary on the outside. Even though the marriage lasted for many years, it was not based on a deep romantic connection. Instead, it was a careful plan to cover up Danny's real self so that his career would not suffer. Danny's decision to marry Sylvia helped him keep his secret hidden from the public, but it also meant that he could not openly live as he truly wanted. When Danny passed away in 1987, his marriage to Sylvia remained an example of how famous people sometimes had to make hard choices. This story reminds us that it is important to be honest about who we are, and that everyone deserves to be accepted for their true self. Tyrone Power and Annabella. Tyrone Power was one of Hollywood's most popular actors, and many people loved watching his movies. Despite his fame, rumors spread that Tyrone might be attracted to men. At a time when such secrets could ruin a career, Tyrone decided to marry a French actress named Annabella. He hoped that by marrying her, he would look like a normal man to the public. Their marriage was a type of Lavender marriage, a marriage done mainly to hide one's true feelings instead of for love. For several years, people saw Tyrone and Annabella together, and they even believed they were happily married. But as time went on, reports started to appear that Tyrone was involved in affairs with both men and women. One of these affairs caused a lot of trouble when it led to an unwanted pregnancy. The scandal grew, and eventually the marriage could not survive all the secrets and lies. In 1948, after being married for 9 years, Tyrone and Annabella divorced. Their marriage was not about deep love and trust. Instead, it was a plan to cover up the truth about Tyrone's real attractions. This story teaches us that sometimes famous people make choices that protect their public image, even if it means hiding who they really are. Tyrone's marriage to Annabella is a clear example of a Lavender marriage, showing how hard it was to live honestly in a time when society did not accept everyone's true self. Cole Porter and Linda Lee Thomas. Cole Porter was a famous composer and songwriter known for his wonderful music. He loved to create beautiful tunes, but he also had a secret. Cole was not attracted only to women, he also liked men. During a time when people did not accept different kinds of love, he needed to hide his real feelings. So he married a kind woman named Linda Lee Thomas on December 18, 1919. Their marriage was not like a typical love story. Instead, it was a clever plan to keep Cole's secret hidden from the public. This type of marriage, where one or both partners hide their true feelings, is known as a Lavender marriage. Cole and Linda stayed married until Linda passed away in 1954. Even though they were together for many years, their marriage was more about protecting Cole's public image than about passion or romance. They supported each other in their work and personal lives, but the main reason behind their marriage was to make sure that people did not ask questions about Cole's true self. Because of this, Their marriage was full of careful planning and understanding. Their story teaches us that sometimes people have to make difficult choices to protect their private lives. Cole Porter's marriage to Linda Lee Thomas is an example of how famous people sometimes had to hide who they really were in order to keep their careers and reputations safe.